Hello, everyone. Welcome to another exciting Tech Thursday episode on threat intelligence, bolstering security defenses in the face of dynamic adversaries. I am Kalpana Singhal, founder and chief editor of CXO TV and Techplus Vijay Group, and I am honored to be moderating this insightful discussion today. Also, please let me have the opportunity to apprise you about the upcoming fourth edition of Global Security Summit, that is GSS 2024. to be held on Wednesday, April 24 in Mumbai, followed by in Jakarta, Indonesia in the month of May. As you know, the GSS 2024 is a thought leadership-driven, business-focused initiative that provides a platform for Chief Information Officers and Chief Information Security Officers and security leaders who are looking to explore new-age threats and the technologies and strategies to mitigate them. The summit will culminate in a prestigious award ceremony recognizing the indispensable role of IT leaders and Chief Information Security Officers play in safeguarding our digital frontier. We hereby formally invite you all to join us as our distinguished delegates, as well as fill your nominations for the prestigious CXO Security Awards as we honor the innovation and dedication of cybersecurity leaders. So now, coming back to our today's Tech Thursday's topic, which is threat intelligence bolstering security defenses in the face of dynamic adversaries. We have an esteemed panel of experts joining us today, each with a wealth of experience in the field of cybersecurity, starting with Venugopal Parameswara, Chief Information Security Officer at CSB Bank. We also have Ashish, Shah, Chief Information Security Officer at Star Union Dai-ichi Life Insurance, followed by Sachin Kawalkar, Global CISO at Neeyamo, and last but not the least, Akhil Wadhavkar, Chief Information Security Officer at CDSL. Welcome, gentlemen. Okay.
Hello.
So let me kickstart the discussion, starting with Sachin. So Sachin, in your opinion, what are some of the biggest threats that organizations face today, and how can threat intelligence play a role in combating these risks? Over to you, Sachin.
Thank you so much for this wonderful session, Kalpana. And myself, Sachin Kawalkar, I'm the Global CISO and Head of Cyber. So for the very good question which you have asked, now currently the threat landscape is changing. Every day we are evolving in a lot of changes. New threats are coming up. Since we have the robust tools, technology, cyber, the frameworks implemented, lot of various advanced level of AI, Gen AI tools, but still the organizations are getting compromised. We need to analyze, investigate why. And the question that why is, probably there are some gaps or weaknesses currently which are underlying in the system, which probably we are not able to identify that. And that is something which is tunneling and incorporating those threats into the current organization. Now, ransomware, it's a big challenge. Now, why it is so? Because now we have a lot of the organizations who are only focusing on the singular threats. Now, when I say singular threats, probably the focus is very limited, or probably they are not able to widen that spectrum which is required for analyzing and investigation of that particular stuff. Most of the organization, the threat vector favor techniques and the effectiveness opportunities, and probably the low risk areas which are getting ignored. So there are multiple challenges. Probably resilience is again one of the challenge. The poor business or organization decisions, and maybe advisories has been misunderstood. They have not been taken care. The threat advisories which has been overlooked. Probably these are the multiple areas or challenges which are impacting the current ransomware or a threat landscape, I can say. Now if we want to make it possible, we have a lot of advanced level of threat intelligence, the threat vectors, which probably can be looked into with the help of various tools and technology, and probably will be able to mitigate those risks which are upcoming into the cyber area.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Sachin. Thanks for your insights. So let me bring in Venugopal. Venugopal, as our Chief Information Security Officer at CSB Bank, could you please tell us that how can threat intelligence help an organization build up its defenses against potential cybersecurity risk and attacks.
Right. So as a human, right, may CISO or otherwise also, right, we all would like to be predictable, right? We don't want to be unpredictable. And when it comes to cyber risk, the same goes, right? So we would like to be informed on, certain aspects of our operation, aspects of our business, aspects of our environment. And in case it contradicts with that particular nature, we will be, it'll be a chaos. So threat intelligence is all about conversion from an unknown state to a known state, right? And its objective is to reduce what is not known to the cyber defenders. Now, we knowingly or unknowingly, we all experience threat intelligence and we use threat intelligence in our day-to-day activities. For example, when we actually go to a new place, we look at their and then when they are navigating, we will be looking at the traffic load, and accordingly we'll choose our routes and strategies and tactics. The same goes with cyber security management also, risk management in organization also. So the more we able to understand our context, our environment, cybersecurity landscape, we will be able to better prepare too, right? As the David Bianco, who's the pioneer in the pyramid of pain, talks about at each layer of that particular pyramid, right, made with respect to the bottom line of the hashes or IP addresses, or to an advanced tools, technique, and procedure level. If we are able to sort of build defenses against each of these layers, then we'll be in a better positions to thwart any kind of attack which we see today in the cyberspace. So threat intelligence become an inevitable part of cyber security risk management, and it is one of those arsenal, some of those solutions and mechanisms and measures. What we have is one of the key arsenal with CISO in terms of thwarting these attacks. So it's a very key component.
Yeah, sure. So as Venugopal mentioned, that threat intelligence can significantly assist organizations understanding the evolving threat landscape and then proactively fortifying the security measures to mitigate potential risk. So now moving on to Ashish. Do we have Ashish now with us? Ashish, you're there?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. You're here? Okay. Great. So welcome, Ashish, to the discussion. So Ashish, as the Chief Information Security Officer at Star Union, could you shed light on how organizations can maintain the balance between gathering the threat intelligence and ensuring privacy?
Sure. First of all, thank you so much for inviting me here, Kalpana and team. Obviously, it's been pleasure here to be there amongst all great analysts to talk about in terms of what practice we have and how we look at threat intel as well as the privacy part of it. So when it comes to threat intel, obviously the data which we talk about in terms of analyzing the part of it is humongous in terms of the way the data has to be gathered, which will also include the PII, which is personally identified information. Obviously, what we expect there is the integrity part of it in terms of ensuring that the personally identified data, which is kind of very, very important aspect of the data gathering part, is something which is being looked upon very, very clearly. There should be and is also that transparency with respect to how the data is therefore collected, looked upon with respect to the analysis, and ensure that the privacy part is something which is being taken care of. In fact, it is more interesting at this point of time with AI coming in and playing its role, I would say pivotal role in terms of the way the data has to be analyzed. And therefore, threat intel data is also very, very critical to look upon from that point of view, which essentially means that the practices which are revolving around including the analytics through AI technologies is something which we'll talk about very, very clearly in terms of the privacy keeping in mind. What I spoke about the integrity part of it, which is very, very important facet of it, which also essentially means that if I chose to be using that information the other way around, it is very, very open and wide available in terms of the image which I can create using the data points there. And that is where all of these data points which are coming from threat intel point of view needs to be looked upon very, very transparently and openly with respect to the privacy requirements.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Thank you, Ashish, for your sharing your insights. And as you rightly, totally agree with you that striking a balance between leveraging the benefits of threat intelligence and same at the same time maintaining the ethically maintaining the data is very critical. Yeah, so would like to bring in Akhil Wadhavkar. Akhil, as the Chief Information Security Officer at CDSL, how does effective threat intelligence help in identifying dynamic adversaries, and how can it aid in keeping pace with evolving tactics, techniques, and procedures, according to you?
So first of all, thank you, Kalpana, for making me part of this esteemed panel. Coming back to your question, how does threat intelligence, help in dynamic threats and techniques and procedures? So the threat intelligence as a concept has got various phases. Starts from visualization, where you have to consider what are your assets, what do you want to protect. Firstly, understanding your business context. Then the other phase is around collection of data, when you would want to collect raw data in terms of logs from various devices and threat intelligence from various threat feed sources and so on and so forth. And then you would want to process all this data in the context that you have, right? So you would want to say, okay, I've got a lot of internet facing applications. Now anything which is related to internet facing, any attack related to internet facing, maybe that is of interest for me, right? And then tying it all together and disseminating all this information to consumers like your cyber defenders or the blue team that we call, who are responsible for defending your organization, disseminating all these information to them. And then obviously there'll be a feedback mechanism wherein all these consumers of threat intel would give a feedback wherein what is actionable intelligence and what is not actionable intelligence. In a nutshell, what I would say, threat intelligence would help you, make informed decisions. Also, make you enable you to prioritize the cybersecurity efforts. Okay, where you would know that so and so area would require special attention in terms of protection, detection, or even prevention, right? So you would make extra efforts on certain areas where you would make sure get highlighted from the threat intel activities. Another area which you would gain in significant advantage from threat intel activities is reduction of your risk posture. So your risk posture would automatically come down. Okay, it also would enable you to collaborate between a lot of threat intel platforms. It would allow you to arrive at some cost-effective solutions as well. So I think these are the advantages that you would gain from threat intel exercises. Coming back to the dynamic part of the threat intel, I would say activities. So the threat intel activities would provision certain techniques, also prevention mechanisms, and also certain procedures which you would want to incorporate in your detection activities, rather than focusing on very specific threat intel like indicators of compromise, which would normally be IP addresses and hash values. You would also get TTPs from these threat intel exercises. So that is also one more very important output, I would say, from the threat intel exercise. Yes.
Yeah, thank you so much. Having said that, I would like to once again bring in Venugopal. So, Venugopal, can you throw some light on how can threat intelligence help not only in threat detection, but also in incident response and recovery?
Yeah, sure. So I'll tell you a real life example. A couple of weeks back, there was one of the prominent software company got breached with ransomware. And I had a conversation with the CISO. So there are, CISO community is very small, and I had a conversation with him. How did he actually be able to sort of manage it, and just to share the knowledge. So one of the points which he was highlighting is that, fortunately for him, before he actually undergo this particular incident, he had done a he had a playbook based on the threat intelligence on the same ransomware family, and had actually enacted the same experience of running a cyber drill couple of weeks before the actual incident happened. And obviously he had been updating his threat intelligence platform, and he also been collecting those disseminating the information from various sources in terms of what are the new ways of attacking, because they said adversaries also changes their tactics over a period of time, right? So fortunately for him, he was actually following it up closely, and then he had this cyber drill conducted based on those threat intel feeds, and which actually helped him handy in terms of managing the risk. Obviously, the ransomware happened, but he was able to immediately contain it because he already know that what the threat actor is going to do next, and with how it is actually spreading across, and what are these again IOCs and IOA indicators of attack modes, the tools, techniques, and all those patterns. He had that handy at that point of time, and he was able to sort of contain it. So it is not just from an preparation standpoint or even a detection standpoint, and it is also an effective solution or a tool for managing the incidents. And the more you do a threat intel, the more adversity. Threat intel will essentially help you to know which is more relevant kind of a threat for your environment, and which is more imminent also. For example, as a bank, we know that, what are the typical adversaries who are targeting the banks? But we also know that, what are the areas, or what are the sections of the banks or types of banks which they are focusing on, what they are currently up to. So that kind of knowledge and intelligence is actually helping these CISOs in terms of fostering our cybersecurity posture. And incident response is obviously an advantage when you have a better threat intelligence.
Sure, Venu. But what we can understand is that the whole technology works on the data that we collect from the system, and maybe also analyzing what are the external threats. So how can we ensure that the threat intelligence we gather is reliable and useful in our security strategy?
Yeah. So in a threat intelligence process, the work process, there are 5 phases, right? First one is the collection. The second one is the extraction. Third one is basically the verifications or validations, we call it. Then fourth is again on, association part of it. Now the third phase, of course, we are collecting the information from various threat sources, and we are extracting the relevant pieces of information from that particular data, and extract it and then make it more sensible. And while making it sensible, we also do a validation. We verify the source is accurate. It's not sufficient to take the input only from one source. We may have to depend on multiple threat intel sources and collect it, and we'll see the validity of that particular sources, how good, are they relevant. Sometimes what happens, which is a practical experience, many of the threat intel sources may be vendor, biased. It may not be really a vendor neutral. So how reliably is that particular source is something important. And once we are able to do that, we also need to corroborate with other threat information. Sometimes the attack pattern may be differently called, or the adversary name will be called in a different way in different platforms. So it is important that we corroborate with multiple kind of threat intel platforms and government agencies also, like CISA or ISAC or Certain, right? India, Certains and all those feeds, and make sense out of it, verify it. And it also, we can also validate some of this threat intel by, some sort of fine tuning or making a simulation. There are simulators or emulators are available, which will actually, do the same level of adversarial activities and test it in our environment. So emulative solutions will actually help us to test the validity of the information, and also how we are actually prepared against those particular threats as well.
That's a very interesting fact. So I would also, Ashish, would you like to add on to what Venugopal said, and if you would like to highlight on what types of information does threat intelligence typically provide, and how can organizations use this data to improve the security posture according to you?
Sure. So obviously, what Venugopal talked about is definitely making sense. Just a couple of more points I'd like to kind of add here. And so, threat intel perspective, obviously, there could be multiple feeds coming into the platform. It could be open source, it could be commercials, etc. And the analyst will look at all of this part of it and look at the correlation which Venugopal talked about, right? Which means essentially, as an analyst, you will be able to identify the growth which is behind this particular threat. What is the vector they are going to look at in terms of the pattern, or in terms of the way modus operandi is going to be looked at, and the way they are going to target a specific sector or specific organization or specific geography. Now that gets translated into the point which is coming to the organization in terms of a specific sector or a geography or a specific technology. If it is applicable to the organization, how they are supposed to look into this and therefore be prepared with respect to the defense mechanism. So IOCs, IP addresses, IOA is something which is available as a part of that, which is a kind of first level of the defense, if I say so, which obviously means that your defense mechanism, which is on perimeter side, which will be firewalls and things like that, will be configured to block such kind of things at the perimeter itself. The second level could be in terms of the way this particular technology which is being deployed has the underlying vulnerabilities, and therefore the operational perspective, how that information will be consumed by the IT operations team or InfoSec operations team, and then look at the mitigation action, maybe through the patches or maybe through the other configuration changes which is required to safeguard and make the defense at the second layer. The third part would be in terms of the way the security operations center will be kind of configured to look into a specific attack pattern, which is available as a part of this threat intel. What is happening within the organization and how it is being looked upon from attack's point of view, and therefore how well the defense guard is being configured for that part of it. And lastly, obviously, if the incident has to happen, then there is a kind of pattern available which basis which there will be some kind of early detections, and therefore the actions would be triggered off through the SOC incident management system and the response mechanism, whereby the respective team is supposed to perform and then eradicate or contain the attack that's.
Yeah, thank you so much. So, having said that, I think putting all these things together, organizations must be facing many challenges. What are the common challenges that businesses face when integrating threat intelligence into their security systems, and how can these be overcome according to you? Okay, so anybody else would like to take this question from the panel? Yes.
What are the challenges in terms? I mean, the question is primarily on the challenges the organization faces on their journey to threat intelligence, right?
Yeah.
So one aspect is obviously there are plethora of information, right? Multiple sources, multiple kind of threat intel platforms are available. Again, as I mentioned, so collaboration is a critical component. In case if you're not having sufficient resources, budget and all, we may end up having only one threat intel platform. Obviously, the organizations can use open source threat intel and corroborate it to get the best out of that particular solution. That's one part of it. The second part is that the second challenge is that many of these threat intel platforms have their own way of measuring the threat, right? Or the nomenclature and the measurement may be different. And sometimes, for example, if you look at a hash, or if you look at a particular program and then put it in an OSINT platform or a threat intel platform, if it is malicious or not, you might see, some vendors will declare it as malicious, some vendors may declare it as not malicious, right? So there's a common standard from a threat intel per se. So that's one of the biggest challenges as CISOs we face. Because if I take an action, many of the times vendor themselves will provide a threat intel feed to us, let's say in an IPS or my SIEM and all, right? So if I take an action from one particular feed based on action, it might even be counterproductive. And we do have certain instances, couple of maybe 4 or 5 years back, not as an organization, I'm telling, as an industry in Russia, one of the threat intel feed is actually putting one of the IP address of AWS. And the attacker had actually have their, malicious hosted website or a C2C server, in a crowd domain front technology, where the IP address of the authorized AWS site was actually shown. And the moment the ISP started blocking it, the entire banking system got collapsed. So it is very important to know the accuracy and the context of that particular threat before you apply it. So that's that's another challenge in terms of not having the better context of that particular threat feed is another challenge which I have seen now. Like an issue for CISOs.
Yeah, that was a great instance that you have shared, Venu. And I think Sachin is back. Sachin, would you like to add to the challenges that you think organizations face?
Yes, correctly.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. There was some network issue, that's why. So, as rightly mentioned by Venugopal, data overload first, probably, which is again a challenge. As he mentioned that analysis of a data. So, data quality is again important, which is a real threat and which is unknown or which is a non-real threat. That is something. Responsible usage of that particular threat. What are the sharing barriers? Probably we should be knowing it. And then the feedback basis upon the collection and the interpretation of that data. Probably I will go into more detail on this each area. Now, when we say the threat feeds, what are the various threat feeds when we are doing a threat intelligence? Because ultimately it is a shade on the unknown. So that is what a threat intelligence is. So what are the threat feeds which we are? What are the real-time alerts probably which we are getting and which are getting pop-up, which is basis upon which the team is getting, the SOC or NOC team, they are acting upon it. What is the capability of threat monitoring? So whether they have advanced tool sets available to make sure that yes, every threat is getting detected, monitored. Actor profiling. So again, after every analysis, which is the best or the bad cop or a good cop. So that is how something the actor profiling, how it is getting identified and it is getting classified into. Then operational intelligence reporting. That is something that how you are reporting those areas into the operational area so that it will further go and classify into and then it will give the alert of that. Then campaign tracking and the research, continuous research upon what are the various feeds, what are the tools, the advisories, and how we are making sure that those are getting utilized for further intelligence and analysis of this. Probably I will say if you want to overcome of this, then we have the automated malware detection and protection, patch monitoring, incident response guidelines. So we should have a very clear and the advanced level of incident guidelines and responses. Strategic intelligence reporting, how we are going to do that. Then maybe we also need to look into the insider threat probably. And then again, the feedback basis upon all that. So ideally it is a tactical, operational and strategic. So these are the 3 core areas of your challenges. And in every area, if you look into with the proper designs and processes, we will be able to overcome out of this challenge. That is what I just wanted to add.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Sachin. So, Akhil, would you like to recommend organizations, how to begin building or improving their threat intelligence capabilities, particularly, those with limited resources or expertise in this area?
Oh, so taking a cue from all the challenges that we just heard, right? So, I mean, first, one of the challenges that I heard is limited budget and resources, right? Now, many of these threat intel platforms, which are OEM driven, they are quite expensive. Yeah, there's a value which comes with that, but yes, there's a cost to be, incurred. So one who is, embarking on this threat intel journey, I think what is important is that you very meticulously look at the assets or the processes or the data that you want to protect. And then you can build on a plan on what threat intel exercises or threat hunting exercises you would want to take further. Okay, you could also look at some open source OSINT tools which can be used to start with, right? So one of the challenges that we heard was having threat intel feeds from various platforms, right? For example, today I by a firewall I have a threat intel feed which is bundled with the firewall. Tomorrow I have got a antivirus which I have got. There's again a threat intel feed which gets bundled with that. So tying up all these threat intel feeds into one platform is very important. So you have platforms such as Threat Tip, which we normally call them, okay, which basically would integrate all these threat intel feeds and give a verdict. And these verdicts can be utilized by all your blocking or perimeter technologies or all the blocking technologies that you would have, right? So imagine I've got a IP address which I want to block today, okay? You would first block it on the perimeter of a firewall, then block it on the internal firewall, and then maybe block it on the anti-malware, right? So there are 3 different sets of technologies that you're dealing with. The threat intel platform, with the centralized threat intel platform, what you would have is basically one feed getting utilized by all these 3 platforms. So you could then maybe move the journey a notch bit. Maybe you could look at some automation, invest in technologies like security automation and response, right? Wherein you've got scripts, wherein all these actions are automated, right? So I think what is important, what your digital assets are, build your threat hunting plan or threat intelligence plan according to that, and then also build in some internal capabilities, right? Maybe you can start with some external resources for advising you to begin with, but then you will also have to invest in training of your internal resources, right? So I think that's also important.
So the question arises that what roles are crucial for an organization to effectively implement and utilize threat intelligence?
So I think the very first role, I would say, which is important is your risk analysis. Okay, basis your risk analysis, your risk analyst input, you would be able to build your threat intel exercises. Also, you would have some engineers who are threat intel experts, okay, who are experts in gathering the information, collating everything, and then passing it on to the analyst. Analysts are the people who will then, look at this information and make sense out of it and, come up with some actionable intelligence. And obviously, there will be, like I said, blue teams who would be making use of this actionable intelligence and then, taking corrective actions or preventive actions, whatever the nature of the intelligence is. So I think these are the important roles that you would have in a typical threat, intel program.
Yeah. Thanks, Akhil. So, Sachin, how do you see threat intelligence evolving with the increasing adoption of artificial intelligence and machine learning in cybersecurity?
Yeah, so I will call it as, because in most of the discussion, whether security for AI or AI is for security. So that's something very interesting. So I will like to start with that. We should have, because AI is AI ML. It's largely adopted by most of the companies, not only for their operational excellence, but even for their threat monitoring and security landscape as well. Lot of tools, they are now built up with a very good platform built on the AI. And since threat intelligence, again, it's a shade on the unknown, probably it is discovering the data, and basis upon the data sets, it is then helping us to go more. So now when we talk about AI, now threat modeling, the first is AI governance model has to be there. Now how we are going to the data collection and handling, model development and training, and model interference and live use. This is something which is a framework which probably we should be doing it for AI. Now, when we say, now again, the managing of the risk and reputation, various regulatory compliances, operational AI governance. When we talk about the AI governance, particularly in my personal opinion and a view, automation and consolidation of multiple tools. Now, most of the organizations, they are using the multiple OEMs or tools or various the network devices or the security layers which are getting. But the collaboration or handshaking between those tools is something which is again important, because a lot of the organization, they are in silos in the tools and technology, they are in silos. Probably that will be a possibility of that threat intelligence not getting detected and prevented. So AI governance is something which is important. And then again, multiple tools, application platforms, while they are documenting with the original data sets and modeling of those with the associated metadata sets and pipeline. That is something important. Now, further, if we classify, then again, it will be into identify, protect, detect, triage, investigate, and respond. And AI is having the capability in all these domains, primarily into triage, investigate, and respond. So that will help again to go back to the analysis area, detect it, and particularly then prevent it.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Sachin. So one last question in the interest of time, as we are on the top of the hour. I would like to, bring this question, very important question, to Ashish. Ashish, can you discuss some real-world examples of when threat intelligence was successful in preventing or mitigating a security incident?
Sure, this is something which is kind of proof of the pudding, right? So all of us spoke about very clearly the importance of the threat intel and how we can kind of make use of it. In fact, this is not only true for this organization which I belong to, but it is also true with respect to every one of us who is kind of having the setup connecting into the internet, right? Whether a small business unit or a mid-size or the big company, all of them have to go through this part of it and ensure at various levels, basis the maturity of the process and the setup they have. They will embark a journey with respect to the actions which is supposed to be taken care of through the threat intel. So first and foremost part will be obviously to configure the threat intel inputs going into various defense mechanism, maybe in an automated way, whereby the IOCs and IP addresses are kind of getting blocked almost instantaneously the moment the threat intel is kind of released by the vendor. So that's being the first mechanism. Obviously, as a part of the analysis, I have seen the attacks coming into the network and being prevented by virtue of the configurations which are being done at the perimeter itself. Akhil also spoke about the layers, right? So obviously malware protection is something which is kind of done across the endpoints. And that is where the second layer defense mechanism is something which is being used from this perspective. And I've seen attacks being kind of mitigated using the threat intel. These are some of the real-time examples which we have seen. And as I mentioned earlier, whether the small setup or the big setup, everyone will look at the suspects very, very clearly in terms of basis their process maturity and the setup maturity.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Ashish. And as a conclusion, we can say that threat intelligence plays a crucial role in strengthening security defenses by providing valuable insights into potential risk and vulnerabilities. By leveraging threat intelligence, organizations can proactively identify and mitigate threats, enhance their incidents, response capabilities, and ultimately fortify their overall cybersecurity posture. So with the ever-evolving landscape of cyber threats, integrating robust threat intelligence practices is essential for staying ahead of malicious actors and safeguarding critical assets. So as we conclude this enriching discussion, I would like to extend my gratitude to our esteemed panelists for sharing their invaluable insights on the role of threat intelligence in bolstering security defenses. Thank you to our audience for joining us today. Stay tuned for more engaging sessions from CISO TV and Techplus Media Group. Have a great day.
For more updates from CXO TV, please like and subscribe to our channel.